So my name is Michael Reutsch. I'm from Barkhausen Institut. We are presenting the M3 hardware and operating system architecture. The problem that we're addressing with this architecture is that in recent years, processors and accelerators have become so complex that even these hardware devices now have security vulnerabilities. We've seen that in the last years, even with some high-profile vulnerabilities in Intel processors. But it's a commonplace problem now in the industry. And we are trying to build an architecture that can withstand hardware-level vulnerabilities. What we're illustrating here is what's running on this board right now. So we're running a couple of processors and some memory that is attached. And the software that we're running is a very simple game of tic-tac-toe. What this represents is essentially a scenario where you can have a base station setup where you run code from different stakeholders that is supposed to be securely separated from each other, like an ORAN application and the base station control plane. What we have here is a game bot that plays tic-tac-toe and the game engine that checks if all the game moves are legal. And we have a human player that can make a move. So if you want, you can make a first move. This gets sent to the engine checks if the game move was legal, and if it is legal, it is written to the current state of the game. So now I am representing the bot, so I can also make a move. Maybe I put myself here. So this gets sent to the engine as well, gets checked if it's a valid move, and then since it is, it gets written to the state. Everything's fine, but what we have put in here, in this specific processor that is running on this hardware, is a hardware vulnerability. That is a vulnerability that has been seen in the wild, that we deliberately put in, and it allows the game bot to bypass the protections of this processor and write directly to memory without the game engine checking if it's a legal move. So if I don't like your move now, I can essentially go and overwrite it, which is not a legal move, but it's still possible since the bot bypasses all the checks and directly manipulates memory. This is essentially the state of the art that we have right now when we have a processor with a hardware bug. What this architecture now allows us to have multiple processors separated by an extra device that we introduce. It's called the Trusted Communication Unit. It sits in front of every compute resource and also in front of the memory, and it does access control checks. This is a very tiny device compared to a processor. It's much less complex. That's why we believe it can be implemented bug-free. And it does not rely on the security checks that the processor makes itself. So the solution now would be that if I move the bot player to another processor, then suddenly we no longer rely on this processor to isolate things, but we have the TCUs that are doing additional checks. So we can program this TCU so that this core can only talk to the game engine, but cannot write to memory. And thereby it only can go through the checks in the engine and can no longer bypass it. So if you make another move now, we can see that this still works. The bot could also make a legal move now, but if I again try to exploit the hardware bug and override this move here, then it will just bounce off the TCU, because the TCU says, no, you're not allowed to write to memory, you're only allowed to talk to this processor. So legal moves I can still do. For example, let me make a legal move. This still works. So the intended functionality is still there, but the unintended functionality is blocked. Yeah, that's the architecture we're developing.